continues to grip parents and eligible first-year students seeking scholarships and loans through the Higher Education Loans Board portal as the August 2024 reporting date approaches. Students who are seeking loans and scholarships await direction from the ministry on the categorization of students into 5 bands, which will determine how much money each household contributes. This after the government revised the funding model to include 5 bands rather than the initial 4, including a provision for a contribution from the households. Marianne Nyambura with that report.
Barely 2 months before the 2024-2025 first-year students report to universities and TVETs, and a cloud of uncertainty still surrounds the higher education sector. On 18th June 2024, the Ministry of Education opened the Higher Education Application Portal, paving the way for first-year students to apply for loans and scholarships. However, the ministry did not indicate the amount of fees parents will pay for their children, leaving parents and students in panic mode. Abel Davis is one such student whose future as a software engineer student at the University of Nairobi hangs in the balance. Davis says he was presented with a fee structure of 605,000 shillings, but his family is unable to raise that amount per year.
Sijui nitafanyaje sasa. But if the government could not fund me, kama haitani fund asilimia 90 kama wenda ni I will defer.
Davis is among students who have attempted to apply for loans and scholarships on the HELB portal. But the Ministry of Education announced that it would release results on how much money eligible students will acquire as scholarships and loans by the end of July, after the ministry categorizes eligible students in 5 bands. 2 months before the opening date, and Davis is unsettled.
I will be there for 5 years and some months, and the semester will start on fast, except now within the very duration I should be in school, Now, na hiyo pesa sahi kulais, I think probably we have to live and less 100,000.
The Higher Education Loans Board will, in the student-centered funding model, determine the level of need for each student who will have applied for loans and scholarships through the portal. This will be done through the means testing instrument. Considerations will be made depending on the family economic background. Affirmative active action. In this case, if the student is a person living with disability, an orphan, part of the marginalized groups, or depending on the gender. The socio-demographic data, including the family size and marital status, also a determinant. HELB will also consider the family education expenditure.
The loan is based on course duration. If your course is 4 years, you get the loan 4 times. So if you defer for 3 years, come back, you still get the loan according to the course duration.
The Ministry of Education revised the funding model bands 7 months ago. Initially, students were categorized as vulnerable, extremely vulnerable, needy, and less needy. This is the first time that the students will apply through the 5 bands, where each household is set to make a contribution. Students who fall in Band 1 will be 95% government-sponsored. They will acquire scholarships at 70%, loans at 25%, while the household contributes 5%. Students who fall in Band 2 will acquire 90% of government sponsorship, scholarships at 60%, loans at 30%, while the households will contribute 10%. Students who will be clustered in the 3rd band will receive 80% of the government financing, scholarships at 50%, loans at 30%, and each household will contribute 20%. Band 4 government-sponsored students will acquire 70% of financing, scholarships at 40%, loans at 30%, and each household will contribute 30%. Students clustered in the 5th band will acquire 60% of government financing, scholarships at 30%, loans at 30%, and each household will contribute 40%.
Above that, actually, the students are also given upkeep loan, money that is enabling them to stay a good life in universities or to meet their personal expenses. So at the end of the day, the parent ends up paying very little.
The litmus test for the ministry is to validate the details keyed in the portal by eligible students on their level of need. For parents and students, their concerns being how soon will the government avail the loans and scholarships?
Because some parents are even discouraging their children from applying for these scholarships, which shouldn't be the case because the government is taking quite a good chunk of this from the needy families.
As the reporting date for first-year students fast approaches, it is a race against time for 153,000 students placed by COOPs to universities and TVETs to apply for scholarships and loans under the student-centered funding model. Marian Nyambura, Citizen TV, Sameta, Bobasi, Kisii County.